Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome to my pre-patch 5.10 video featuring the third and fourth character to come to patch 5.10, and that's going to be the Dark Hunter team. Yes, so some people were wondering who these characters were. Now there's final official confirmation on who that is, and in this video we're going to be going over all of their kits and the reworks associated with this team and talk about where they're going to fit in the game's meta and, you know, my opinions of what I've seen so far. We're going to go over some gameplay footage that was provided to us and then see what we all think, and I would love to know your thoughts and how you feel on this team. I'm loving the animation and the models for Morbius, and we do have, actually, before we jump into it, we're going to jump ahead a little bit here and I'll show you who else we're looking at. Dr. Voodoo. So for those of you who may accurately have predicted who was coming from the silhouettes, yes, we have Morbius and Dr. Voodoo coming to Marvel Strike Force. So, without further ado, let's get this show started. Alright, so first things first, we're going to go over the kits for all of the brand new characters here, Morbius and Dr. Voodoo, as well as the reworks to Ghost Rider, Elsa, Bloodstone, and Mordo in this one here. There is a few text mistakes, but I do know where they are, so I'll let you know where that is. So starting off with Morbius, traits Villain, City, so he's not a hero, he's also City. Some people are saying maybe he might have been global. He's a controller. Personally, I thought maybe he might have been able to be a brawler, and he's also Mystic, so more Mystic gear. Now that's a little bit unfortunate because we've been going through a period of really super saturated Mystic characters because a lot of them are really, really good. But yes, he is a Mystic character, not bio, and he has this new tag, Dark Hunter. So starting off with his basic Sanguine Slash. Attack primary target for 200% damage, steal 10% health from the primary target, and redistribute to self. This bypasses heal block, and in war offense, it applies to bleed. Now, it's a little bit unfortunate that, well, you know, this stuff doesn't happen outside of war. I would think that maybe he would be able to bleed on his basic outside of war, but hey, there we are. His special, Vampiric Spread. Energy cost 3 out of 3, attack primary and adjacent targets for 250% damage, apply 3 bleed to primary and secondary targets. So we get a lot more damage here, a lot more bleed. Unfortunately, it's not piercing, 250%. I'm wondering if that's a bit low, but it is on a very low cooldown and it can hit multiple targets, and I guess because there's 3 bleed, that's why. And it's not 2 turns of bleed, it's just 3 bleed on 1 turn, so it's all gonna tick right away. Now his ultimate, this is where things get really, really big. Energy cost 5 out of 7. Now, I want to say that in War Offense, this is available on turn 1 because of some mechanics that we're going to see from Dr. Voodoo. Attack primary targets for 450% damage plus flip. Now, this says defense down. It's supposed to be defense up, so you're flipping defense up. And deflect. Chain to 4 adjacent targets for 310 plus flip defense up and deflect. On War Offense, if this character has 3 Dark Hunter allies. Now, this is all of them. Mordo doesn't actually have the Dark Hunter tag, and we'll get into that. It doesn't matter a huge much, but they are intending you to use Mordo because they did rework him a little bit. So this does apply trauma, but you need the full team. And it applies... Oh, is it getting cut off here on the side? Heal block and disrupted for 2 turns to Hero City primary target, plus apply trauma and heal block for 2 turns to all Hero City secondary targets. So... big chain. If you target this character on the side, they're going to go and hit everyone, like you'll see when we look at the video footage for Heroes for Hire, but only the primary target gets disrupted. So a lot of people are intending this to hit Luke Cage for that, but we'll see how this can maybe change. I have some notes as well from our meeting that we had prior as well that I'll talk about. So on War Offense, this cannot be counterattacked, it cannot be blocked, but outside of War, it can be counterattacked, so just keep in mind. Passive, the Living Vampire. Gain 30% piercing, so all of his attacks are going to have 30% piercing additional damage. He also gains 20% drain for him and his allies that are Dark Hunter, so everyone not Mordo. In War Offense, on spawn, if this character has 3 or more Dark Hunter allies, that's the full team, apply blind to the 4 highest damage city hero enemies. Now, we'll see when we look at the video how funny this is because, yeah, it causes them all to miss. If this character has 4 or more city enemies, gain 300% focus. So, yes, if you're going up against Heroes for Hire, Morbius is going to have 300% extra focus. Gain plus 30% damage for self and Dark Hunter allies, which unfortunately is also limited to War Offense. Now, There are some developer notes here that was left with us. So, character's defining attributes, you know, he has very high focus. You know, Morbius is a controller, high focus and damage. He can reliably apply bleeds, flip defense up, so they corrected here, and flip deflect with his high focus. Very powerful, obviously, for taking down hero steady enemies. And what's interesting about this is about how this is going to maybe match up against Young Avengers, who are also a war defense team from this patch. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. ISO considerations, Striker, since you'll be able to apply all of those bleed effects, and the Health Steal also works on the ISO bonus attack. And Morbius works best, obviously, with his own team against city hero characters. I'm just gonna kind of skim that. It's not super important. Dr. Voodoo, hero global, support Mystic again, Dark Hunter. So yes, he's global. Now this is interesting because when we look at his kit, he might be the one here that actually has the wider amount of use, and we'll take a look at that. So basic staff blast, pretty basic there. Transfer 1 death proof from primary target to self. Attack primary target for 300% damage and heal self and all Dark Hunter allies by 8% of his max health. So this doesn't have anything to do with how much damage he does, you know, like a drain mechanic, but this actually just is purely based on his stats. So that's kind of nice. Special Doctor's Order, energy cooldown 3 out of 3, available on turn 1. Apply ability block and defense down to the primary target. Apply defense down to adjacent targets. So, yeah, a lot of defense down going on. It's only 1 turn, but it is, you know, a very short cooldown. Ability block on a cooldown of 3. Pretty neat. Mind control 2 adjacent enemies to attack the primary target. The controlled enemies gain plus 30% damage for this. Bury yourself and all Dark Hunter allies by 30% of his max health. And then adjacent non-Dark Hunter allies by 20% of his max health. So this is really interesting because outside of war and outside of his own team, he can still barrier other people for 20%. Now, unfortunately, it's just the 2 adjacent allies, not the full team, but it's better than nothing, and that's actually a fair bit on a cooldown of 3. His ultimate, Soul Manipulation. Now, this is a very long cooldown. Energy cost 4 out of 8. This is like a regular turn 3 or turn 4 move. I forget it, because you do get one when you start your I think it's a turn... I think it might be turn 4, but this works differently in War Offense. We'll see when we talk about his passive. Steal 20% health from all enemies and redistribute 150% health stolen. So this is the first time where a health steal ability has actually exceeded 100% redistribution. Normally it's that. This is 150. Now, it is only to all Dark Hunter allies, so if you're using him outside of his team, it's only going to be him. But it does bypass heal block. Now, I want to say that even though it steals 20%, we'll see here, this attack ignores death proof as well. Clears all negative effects from all Dark Hunter allies, so himself and his team. In War Offense, apply immunity to all Mystic allies. So this, well, yeah, this is largely going to be useful for his team. I was going to say, maybe if you're using him outside of his team, but you're probably not. This attack ignores death proof. So this is important because this is the first time where, in a while, a health drain has ignored death proof, but it doesn't ignore health thresholds. So characters like Dr. Doom, for example, is not being ignored for the health there. And so do keep that in mind, that you are still going to trigger the health thresholds of Dr. Doom and other characters that have like passive HP mechanics. So his passive Hungan Supreme? Okay, I'm going to say that wrong. I butchered that probably. Gain 5% speed for each stack of death proof up to a maximum of 25%. So if he's got 5 death proofs, which he can have, then he's going to have an increase of speed of 25%. Now, I was told that, you know, the only time where this is likely to happen is if the battle takes a very long time. You know, maybe if you were to use him in Dark Dimension, and that's why I was kind of alluding to his ultimate. And he's global. Would you want to use this character in Dark Dimension global? Maybe. He's kind of like a Minerva in global in some way, just he can't revive, but he's got the health steal mechanic, which is really nice. When this character drops below 50% max health, gain 1 death proof up to a max of 5. So if you're running like this, or like a healer ISO, and you can keep going above and below, that's a good way to stack up your death proof in longer fights. When any ally dies, gain 1 death proof up to a max of 5, and then apply offense up to self and all Dark Hunter allies. While 5 enemies have speed up, all allies gain 30% crit chance and crit damage. This is a nod to Shang-Chi, because his ultimate gives speed up to everyone, and then as a result, everyone else, and especially the Dark Hunters, they get 30% crit chance. Now, it doesn't have to be Dark Hunters, but it's largely going to be this team. In War Offense, on spawn, if this character has 3 or more Dark Hunter allies. Now, this is interesting because it says 3 or more. We only have 3 others at this time. So this kind of suggests that there might be opening up a future character. Are we going to get Blade on this team in the future? Maybe, because as it sits, Mordo is a weird one out, but the rest of them is just a 4-man team plus Mordo. Now, you generate 2 ability energy for 4 random Dark Hunter allies or self that were not at full energy. So this is how some of the other characters like Morbius is going to get to their ult on the first turn. Okay, so I would personally recommend the healer ISO, and I think that's for the reason of his passive. So if you keep going above 50%, below 50%, it's going to trigger more death proofs. So I think that's really nice, and it's going to increase the total amount of healing done to his kit. So cool. And like I said, he's one of the few characters that has an ability that can ignore death proof with his ult. Let's talk about updated characters. So Elsa Bloodstone saw a significant amount of reworks to her stats, 32% health, 29% damage, 50% armor, only 4% focus. She doesn't really need that though. 29% resistance. You guys might know that I do these sort of videos from time to time where I talk about base stat increases and how it stacks up to current characters. I'll be doing another one on this team, not in this video here, but a separate video where we'll be discussing all of that because I think this might go on for a little while. So I would kind of watch out for that in terms of seeing where they stack up to the existing characters in the game. Now, basically, all of her stuff just got bumped up on the damage. So I'm going to skip through the old and we're going to talk about the new. So her basic goes from, I'm not going to go over the kit in huge detail. I'm sure you guys know them sort of. So Elsa's basic attack, 75% piercing plus bonus attack 5 times for 75% piercing. So a lot of piercing. 75 times 6 is a lot. 400 something. I don't know what the exact number is, but huge, up from 45 per hit. So that's, you know, an extra 180% damage overall. 30 times 6. So that's a lot. Special trick shot. Attack primary target for 320% damage. Attack the most injured enemy for a second time for 370%, and this ignores taunt and stealth. Now, this is where things get interesting for her ultimate Shatter Guns. Now, gain offense up for 2 turns. Attack primary target and adjacent targets for 280% damage, plus 45. So all this just bumped up. It also includes Dark Hunter allies, things like that. Characters killed by this attack cannot be revived. So really interesting, and we'll see, it doesn't really, I don't think they show it too much in the video footage that we have, but what's interesting is if you're able to get this off and kill someone, they will die. Now, from the meeting that I had with the devs, this is not intended to happen all the time. It's a very high skill strategy move. If you are somehow able to land a kill with this, or if you do like a nice crit, and they don't have death proof because maybe they lost it from being stolen from Dr. Voodoo, for example, then you will be able to outright kill them. In this case, for like characters like Infinity Watch or Heroes for Hire. So this could be really interesting. Now, it can't be blocked, so it's definitely, they're going to be taking a shit ton of more damage here with this move, which is crazy. Now, you know Elsa's passive, it does like a follow-up attack if she misses or if there's like an evade or something like that. This does work with, it says if this character has 3 or more supernatural allies, it does work with Dark Hunters. So even though it doesn't say it here, Dark Hunters are included. And then the accuracy part is just shifted over to Dark Hunter. So all in all, she's got a huge damage bump. And what the dev said is that she's actually borderline OP, their words, not mine, about how much damage she can actually put out. So this will be interesting to see in practice. Ghost Rider saw a pretty significant increase of stats across the board. 15% health, 26% damage, 57 armor, 33 focus, and 36 resistance. Not a lot of big changes to his kit, admittedly. His penance stare here, if he's charged, it can't be blocked. That's basically about it. And of course, his passive has now transferred over to Dark Hunter, so his max health, which was already quite high, 40% for the team, now works on Dark Hunter allies. And then the speed bar mechanic, which he gains, they gain 3% per negative stats effect. This also applies to Dark Hunter allies, and 40% focus to Mystic allies. I think this bumped from 30, but I'm not sure. So finally, we have Mordo. Also a significant increase across the board. 49 health, 38 damage, 50 armor, 46 focus, and 55% resistance. Now, a little bit disappointing. He actually did not receive much rework to his kit. And like I said, he does not have the Dark Hunter tag. He just has the Supernatural tag, but he still fits in with this team. On War Offense, his special, this cannot be blocked. And if this character has 4 or more Mystic allies, the chance to blind additional targets goes up from 50% to 75%. That's it. Yep, that's it. That's all for Mordo. So let's jump on to this. This is the Heroes for Hire. This is Dark Hunters versus Heroes for Hire, and I want to show you like how this works. Okay, So we're going to be jumping in here. And you see right away, on spawn, the Morbius blind on the passive. First thing that happens. Okay, I wanted to pop there. Whatever, you saw it. You guys saw it. Everyone got blinded. Actually, I think it's 4 characters. So basically, everyone other than Luke Cage should get blinded. And so you'll see when they go through their attacks here that everything kind of misses. Misty Knight's ult, miss. Really nice here. Calling Wing's ult, Shang-Chi's ult, everything misses, right? Because it's not unavoidable, so they all get missed. That's cool, right? And it actually feels really good, because that's kind of the hardest thing about Heroes for Hire. Not the only thing, but I mean, like, that starting barrage is just really nuts. So, yeah, it's nice to see them miss. Misty Knight, however, has lost her blind at this point, so she is kind of hitting into people. Iron Fist ultimate also gonna miss. None of them are unavoidable, so really, really cool there. Now the blind is off, and this is where the fun is supposed to begin. But as you can see, this is a punch across. Just to be clear, this is the test server that they've done, and it's a punch across. This is Morbius's ult, and if you remember what I said here, is that you kind of want to start from the side, work your way around, and that way you're landing that trauma and all of the flips and the debuffs to everyone. I want to say that one problem that can happen with this, though, is that if Luke Cage is suddenly in the middle... I should have paused it earlier on. If Luke Cage is in the middle and not the side, you know, Luke Cage should be the main target of that. So I would have targeted Luke Cage on this instance rather than calling Wing. But if you were to move Luke Cage into the middle, that means that the chain is only going to hit 3 people rather than 5 if you're intent on getting the disrupt. So do keep that in mind when we eventually get to using Morbius. So, nothing special here about the Ghost Rider ult because he's not charged at this point, so it's just doing more debuffs, it's doing damage, but it's not really healing Ghost Rider. And I think Ghost Rider has a Striker passive, sorry, Striker ISO here. This is the special for Dr. Voodoo, not the ult. So this is an ability block on Luke Cage, and then it also put a defense down to the others. Also causing mind control as well. Giving barrier to the team, as you guys see. 30% of Dr. Voodoo's health, who is very high, by the way. Dr. Voodoo has a pretty healthy health pool. So that he's probably the second healthiest next to Ghost Rider. And especially Ghost Rider's passive really helps there. We get the Mordo ult. And then we get some more damage in, just in general. That's the special. So targets the character with the highest damage, which in this case probably is going to be Elsa because of her offense up buff. So that's a little bit unfortunate there. But you can see, so if you guys remember how it works with how beating Heroes for Hire works with Weapon X, basically the sweet spot is you want to get them under 50% health, but you don't want them to die, because you want them to constantly burn their charges, like Calling Wing, Shang-Chi, and Luke Cage are all out of charges, but Misty Knight and Iron Fist haven't really been reduced under 50% health, at least as of this. Now, Ghost Rider dies here, which is kind of disappointing, but you can see that he really funnels more energy into everyone else, and then also Dr. Voodoo gets Deathproof as a result of that too. So everyone's getting like, what, like 2 more ability energy as a result of Ghost Rider dying, I'm pretty sure. At this point, Calling Wing is dead. We get the special there, or was that a basic with Morbius, I think, actually? It might have been a basic. And then Iron Fist is slowly starting to lose his charges as a result of the trauma, which, again, 2 turns of trauma is a long time on Morbius. So that's usually enough to kind of get through the majority of this match. Now, we're going to get the... is it Dr. Voodoo's time to shine here? I think this is the ultimate. So this is the health drain. And this does bypass Deathproof. So, in case you guys missed it, yeah, so they were at low hit points. They were all basically at, like, nothing. So at this point, they all just die. Their charges are all gone at this point, and so Dr. Voodoo comes in, does the health steal, and kills all 3 of them. Misty Knight is still there. However, she still does have trauma, so she is losing her charges now, but she's only got 1 turn of trauma at this point. That's the Elsa special, you know, and there we are. And then every turn, she should be losing her charges there. We go in with a Mordo special here to try and get a stun off here. So what's really important to making this team work is the Morbius ultimate, because obviously that's... and the whole team together. But realistically, in this video here, Morbius did a lot of the heavy lifting with trauma. That's one of the most important debuffs in the game, especially in a war context when you're fighting Heroes for Hire, because that's what made Weapon X so powerful against them, was having that available to you. So It's going to be Morbius. Morbius is going to be one of the most important to taking them down. You're not going to take them down without Morbius, and honestly, you're probably going to need the full team. But I have a few notes. We're going to take a look at one more video, and then I'm going to share with you all my overall thoughts and some more stuff that I heard from the devs during the meeting. So this one here, this is Eternals. Sorry, yeah, this is Dark Hunters versus Eternals Infinity Watch. Now, I'll admit that this is not a combination that I find very frequently. This is 3-man Infinity Watch versus the Eternals. So this is actually more to do with beating the Eternals than it is to do with Infinity Watch. I was told that they do not defeat Infinity Watch 5-man, but they do beat Eternals and Eternals Hybrid. So just so people are aware about that one. This one does take a little bit longer, admittedly, and I don't know if I want to go through the full video because killing the Infinity Watch takes forever. Also, this is on 1-times, and literally, they take forever in their animations. Basically, what's important is we'll get to the point where the Eternals start dying off, because they go first. The trauma is really important. So you guys know what trauma does. He's traumaing and also heal blocking, and that's pretty important. Now, what's interesting is that actually didn't land trauma. I don't know. Is this not in war? I thought it was. Why did he not land the trauma? Were their resistance just so high on their defense up? Maybe they were. But maybe it didn't matter because of all of these debuffs that are being applied across the team. The speed bar. We know that the speed meta is really important, and we're going to talk about this, and we've already talked about this with related to America Chavez and Eternals and how this might fuck everything up. But that's not this video here. There's way more things to talk about that in this case. I think it's all the amounts of speed bar basically that is given to this team that really just overcome the Eternals, because once one of them are dead, like you saw with Cersei dropped, then at that point, it's really easy, you know. The Eternals are nothing without both of them. So, yeah, once Cersei died, basically that's it, and eventually Icarus is going to die himself. I'm actually, not super impressed with this video because this is not a combination of team that you see very often. And also, trauma was resisted there in the get-go. We know that if you have trauma also with the Eternals, they actually don't heal up and cleanse everything, because that's what trauma does. Just like when Doctor Doom tries to time platform. So that's pretty interesting. Anyways, yeah, not super important here. So we're going to get to what I think is the roster shot, and then I'm going to give you my notes. So we're going to close that down. We're going to open up this one here. We're going to take a look at their speed values for those who care. We're going to skip through Ghost Rider, though, because that's not important. We know some of these characters here. So Morbius has a speed of 128. This is pretty good because, all things considered, that's actually quite a bit. So his stats are looking pretty solid there. Dr. Voodoo here, you can see that his health pool with 130k power, 571,000 health. So he is very healthy, and this is without the 40% that he's getting from Ghost Rider. Let's skip through to where they scroll down to the speed. Now, he has a speed of 120, which is actually very respectable and above average. So, where I think that Dr. Voodoo might be very good, and I think that he might be better than Morbius as a standalone character, is going to be in possibly Dark Dimension Global. Maybe. But like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of saturation for Mystic Gear, and whether or not this is going to be the character for you, and this will depend on his release method as well, which we don't know at this point. We do know one thing with regards to release methods, I'll say that now, is that if you look at Morbius's traits here, he has something called Spirit Slayer. So this suggests to me that there's going to be some sort of event, whether it's a milestone event or a campaign event regarding this trait here, and at the very least Morbius has it. I don't know if Dr. Voodoo also has it or not. If he does, maybe he could be a campaign event character as well. He does have the Spirit Slayer tag. So yes, both Dr. Voodoo and Morbius are going to be involved in whatever event that this is. So I want to finish off by talking about the interview notes that I have here that I wrote down after, and I want to kind of leave it here because that's a fancy, I like how he looks. I love the models. I think the art department does a really good job with these. I want to talk to you all about my concluding notes here. So Dark Hunters are considered to be a step below Weapon X because they are not a legendary team. But they are designed to be able to beat most of the meta war defenses at this point. However, they are not meant to overcome Young Avengers on equal footing against them. If you're down punching against Young Avengers enough, possibly you'd be able to do it because Squirrel Girl and Ms. Marvel are city heroes, which Morbius is good against. There is punch across potential for Heroes for Hire, but there's not too much of a punch up. So plus or minus 50k team power, that's what I was told. The balance was designed for a punch across, but skillful playing could allow for some punch-up depending on where the team is slotted on the field, and it is possible, but it will be tough. Now, Dr. Voodoo is designed a bit more outside of War because his kit is not locked to War offense as much as some of the other characters. Mordo is also not a Dark Hunter, just to clarify that again. This to me tells me that maybe he'd be replaced at some time in the future. I don't know, maybe Blade might come to the game. But he is the one who's received the base stat increases, so very likely you're still going to want to use him. Now, what else did I want to say? So, I mentioned this before, but moving Luke Cage to the center could avoid the Morbius chain, which moves to adjacent targets and not rebounding. So, you know, this could help and reduce the effectiveness of Morbius overall. This will be some, you know, strategy later on when they actually do get released halfway through the patch. But I don't know how much this is going to change, and I think this is going to require some testing. Now, Elsa Bloodstone's ultimate is very hard-hitting, but like I mentioned when I went over her kit, it's more of a strategic use to get that kill for people to stop their reviving. You know, will people be thinking about this all the time? No. You know, but if an opportunity presents itself to actually get this to happen, then it'll feel really good. But don't expect this to happen a lot of the time. Characters are also not tested around blue ISO 4 or 5 in mind for future testing, so it is only currently tested with existing blue ISO up to 3. We know that some of the classes have some really interesting level 5 abilities, but since we don't have that in the game yet, these were not designed with that in mind. So the base stat reworks for older characters are on par with new releases. Not kit-wise, but stat-wise, they are on par with newer characters. And for that, keep an eye out in the future. In the very near future, we're going to be talking about the base stat reworks. I have one coming up for Young Avengers. That's going to be first because they're the characters that are going to be available first in this patch. And then I'll be doing the Dark Hunters after that. I also had a question that if Dr. Voodoo is the highest hit point ally over Ghost Rider, would you still be able to win the battle against Heroes for Hire? And the answer was yes, this should be the case because Ghost Rider has a lot of hit points, but so does Dr. Voodoo. I know that Heroes for Hire does have some mechanics involving the highest hit point player, just like with Weapon X and Omega Red and Sabretooth, but I was assured that that shouldn't matter too much. They will also be good against Eternals combos, but not against Infinity Watch. At least not, maybe not Eternals America Chavez, but that's a topic for another video. So this is an interesting team. What do I think of it at the end of all of this, though? I have mixed thoughts. You know me, I'm not a big fan of war teams. However, I am looking for the silver lining for what characters might be more valid outside of war. For me, this really shouts at Dr. Voodoo. At least at first glance, he to me seems like the character that you're most going to want to invest in. It depends on the release methods as well. You know, who's the event campaign? What is this Spirit Slayer? Is this for Dr. Voodoo or is this for Morbius? That is the question, I suppose, there. And that's going to really make me decide who I want to invest more into, because at the end of the day, you want to invest in characters that you can have higher yellow stars are. So that's the Dark Hunter team. I know this was a bit of a long video. Let me know what you think about this team in the comments down below. I'm interested in the fact that Mordo is not tagged with the Dark Hunters, which maybe opens the possibility of another character coming to this team down the line. But yeah, at this point, between Young Avengers and this team, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm going to be building Young Avengers because of Young Avengers. I've mentioned that before many times. Will I build this team fully? I'm not sure. I'm kind of mixed because it's war. I don't know if I have the resources for it. Also, it's Mystic, and I've just recently spent a lot of gear in Mystic on previous characters that have come that are really awesome. So, yeah, I don't know for sure, but we'll be talking about this more and more in the days and weeks to come. So, thank you all for watching my video, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.